You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
All right, we are here, another edition of Global Trade This Week. This is the Halloween edition, right? We pushed it back one day, so it's all Halloween all the time today. I'm excited to talk about our four great topics. But before we get into that, I'm Doug Draper. I'm only half of the show. The other half is my good friend, Mr. Pete Mento. Pete, I'm not 100% sure where you are today. So give us our audience. You got a nice whiteboard behind you. So
that's the window. Yeah.
Where does this podcast find you on this glorious day?
In my office in Washington, D.C. So I am, this is my new base of operations here in the beautiful district, and couldn't be happier. Amongst all this vile scum and villainy, and right here, knee deep in the swamp.
Nice. I don't know what to say about that. Vile in the swamp. I think, didn't somebody say you got to drain the swamp? Is that what we're trying to accomplish?
When you find the drain, tell me. Good luck. Good luck, buddy. Good luck.
Nice. Cool, man. Well, let's just jump into this thing. Like I said, we got some great topics. We cover a wide spectrum, but I like both of yours. So hit us with number one, Pete. What you got?
Yep. So a good friend of mine last night reminded me of a great saying: early to bed, early to rise, work really hard and advertise. I guess that was Ted Turner was a big fan of saying that. You know, it's one thing to get up early and work really hard, but if no one realizes you're working really hard, what's the point of it? You know, and it reminded me a lot of how the government does a very bad job of advertising the things that they're great at. Now, to be fair, Doug, we don't always say the kindest things about government agencies here on Global Trade This Week. And by we, I mean I. But this is going to be a bit of a turn for us. My first topic is the ridiculous amount of help that's available to importers and exporters that they really just don't know about. There are so many, just customs alone, so many free programs that allow you to be well educated, to really understand compliance. You can get your products classified online now by using very simple form format that's available on the website. Getting Schedule B numbers and ECCNs for exports from the folks at the BIS. Report writing and report generation through the automated commercial environment. All of these things have been paid for by your tax dollars. And I hate paying taxes. I know we all do. But It's ridiculous to think that they just don't talk about them. They don't. And when they do talk about them, they don't do it in a way that really highlights how very helpful and important that they are. So I know it's only October, but at this point, we're kind of all, in the break bootleg move, the power slide into 2024 at this point. As people are putting together their plans for the next year, I think something that they really ought to think about is, how can I better use all of these different types of assets and things that are available to me that really could help to superpower my compliance program for 2024. And they're all available right there on the website. Reach out to us if you want to learn more about it, of course. But it's just ridiculous that people struggle so hard to try to maintain a compliance program when there's so much support that's available based on taxpayer dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of like the USPS. I admit I'll batch those guys time and again, but there's so much potential there that is untapped or unaware. Like you said, I forget the terminology you use, but nobody's promoting that, right? Nobody's promoting that. And the one thing, so I was like, yeah, that's great, but I'm not in the swamp. I'm not in DC, but for our audience, I'm in Denver, right? So the question is, well, what's available to me in Denver? And, a shameless plug for the World Trade Center, Denver.
Absolutely.
Go to their site, and this is common for World Trade Centers, but I know the group here in Colorado is just phenomenal, right? I mean, I'm just looking here at some of the, import logistics. How do you deal with a free trade agreement, international contracting, ITAR, trade finance, Incoterms, ethics and international trade. All that stuff is available for either free or very minimal cost. So for you in Colorado or other major markets across the country, there is a World Trade Center in your city, all of which provides phenomenal resources. And I can speak from firsthand experience with the team in Denver, and the amount of training that is available, and some of it goes untapped. Some of these classes that are available, like you and I, we have a widget and we want to sell it in the UK. What are the rules? How do I do it? Is it a good idea in the first place? Who's done it already? Like, all of that is at their fingertips. That is just untapped. So I don't know, Pete, how do we get the word out more?
You just did it, right? So there's a great example. And to be super fair, Doug, I don't know of many World Trade Centers that are anywhere near as good, as active, as well supported, and as aggressive. Karen Gerwitz and her team at the World Trade Center Denver are absolutely, superlative. It's, in my opinion, probably the best one in the country when it comes to supporting the trade. They're incredible. But that's not to say that the other ones around the country aren't great either. But that's a great example. How many people that watch this show, that listen to us, understand that they have organizations in their state that's what they're there for, to advocate for you. They want nothing in return, maybe a small annual, a relatively small annual membership fee. But what you get in return is amazing. And then the federal agencies, everyone at Commerce, the people at the State Department, folks at Customs, there are so many things that are there for outreach. And I'm telling you, it's probably like one of those jokes where you've got some career politician sitting there doing Sudoku, waiting for the phone to ring, because people don't use them enough. So we've got to get the word out. They've got to get the word out, and let your fellow trade geeks and transportation nerds know there's help out there, and you should use it.
Yeah, for sure. Big fan of World Trade Center Denver. Great people over there. They'll get you in the right direction. So
absolutely,
all of our audience members reach out, and even if you're not in Colorado, I know they'll give you some direction and some advice. So there we go. I'm going to wait for the check in the mail to help with that promo, Pete, and hopefully it's coming.
We'll be waiting a long time, Doug. I don't think that they're awash with extra cash at the World Trade Center. So, and if they have extra cash, I'm sure that they would try really hard to get a raise for all those hardworking people over there.
Yeah, good group, solid group. So cool.
All right, what you got, Doug?
All right. So I saw something the other day written about this, and it actually was a comment made from DHL. We were talking about different freight forwarders and specific to DSV before we jumped on. But the rumor is that inventories, in a general sense, are now balanced as we head into the holiday. So basically, the economy's developed on goods and services. And during COVID, goods were king. Everybody wanted their stuff. And we use Peloton as the example, right? They wanted tangible things. And so that was big during COVID. And companies were like, we need to feed the beast. We need more stuff, bigger POs. Let's go. And then as COVID was able to come under terms, and we were able to manage it as a globe, right, as the international community, people switched to services, and they wanted the experience economy. I'm going to go on a vacation that got postponed. I'm going to go out to dinner. I'm going to go experience. So goods were during COVID, experiences and services were post-COVID. Excuse me. But buyers and CPG companies didn't see that pivot coming as quickly as it did. We talked about the roaring 20s many times. And so all these POs just came in, and there was so much inventory and so much stuff that they couldn't put the brakes on fast enough. And that's whenever the warehouse industry expanded, and it was a very beneficial time to be in the warehousing business. So what happened for this year is smaller purchase orders. We saw that in a minimal peak season that we had this year, and it's starting to balance out. So the right product is in the right locations. There's not overstock, and we saw that reflected in the fact that peak season was pretty minimal or non-existent this year. So question is, now that everything is kind of right-sized, what are the consumers going to do? And then what is the financial reports going to say in Q1 with these companies that have finally right-sized and balanced their inventories? And it'll be interesting to say, is there going to be success in Q1 where people are going to stand up and companies like, hey, we got our act together, we balanced our inventories, everything was where it was supposed to be, and the consumer got their product when they wanted it? Is that going to be what I would refer to here in Colorado as a false summit related to the economy, right? Hey, look at this great stuff. We made extra money and we fixed all the issues we had with 2023. Was that going to be a blip, or is it going to be a true bellwether of what the economy is doing? So I'm not really sure, but I think that the consumer, Pete, is going to have a pretty good experience this year if they're interested in buying goods instead of services, where the inventory is right where it's supposed to be. It's going to get to you quickly. The prices are going to be very fair, and we'll see how things look in Q1 when all of that is said and done. And I think it's going to look pretty favorable. I just don't know if that's going to be a true gauge of where we are in the economy as a whole. So I don't know. What's your take on all that?
Kind of mixed, I've been reading a lot of similar articles, and we don't give investment advice here. So please do your own research. But whenever I hear logistics companies or anyone saying, hey, it's all better now, everything's fine, things are balanced, I'm immediately a little bit skeptical. What are we trying to do here? Are we trying to make investors in the street feel confident that better days are ahead, so come buy the stock? So that's one of the things that I, immediately I'm skeptical. And the second is, are we really balanced? Or are we just saying that we have more orders coming in? It's closer to the 2019 numbers. Warehouses are, better than I do, Doug. Warehousing space, it's still very expensive. It's hard to find, particularly if you need something that's customized. Because there's still a lot of unsold crap laying around this country. And we have not seen the fire sale on retail. So when they say inventories are balanced, I just want to say, are they really? Are they really balanced? Or is there still a lot of unused, unconsumed inventory that's laying around this country that people don't know what to do with? And whether that's everything from fashion and clothing all the way down to piles and piles of PPE that never sold. And the federal government's waiting for it to hit rock bottom to buy and, put in some warehouse somewhere in Salt Lake City. I don't know. But the indication of looking at orders coming out of China and orders coming out of most of Asia, I don't know that it fully supports that kind of positivity at this point, that exuberance. I'm just not feeling it, man. I'm not feeling it at all.
Yeah. We'll see how it shakes out. I have a little bit better feel for it. With my personal experience in my industry in warehousing, I have seen with our clients the rebalancing, and I think it's going to be a good holiday season, and I think we'll see a blip. Whether that's true as ongoing, or like I said, whether it's a false summit, will be determined. So
time will tell, my friend.
Yeah. Well, it is halftime and it is Halloween, so obviously we need to speak to that a little bit. Cap Logistics is the one that are bringing the holiday treats to us today. So please visit caplogistics.com, and we want to thank them for giving us the soapbox every single week. It's much appreciated. So now that we put the plug in for Cap, Pete, I'm going to let you rip with your halftime.
Yeah, but before we do that, we want to mention our TAPA appearance. So we will be down in Boca Raton, Florida, at the TAPA 2 conference, and we'll be recording the show live. And we're excited for that. We'll be taking crowd questions. There'll be all kinds of hijinks, tomfoolery, and other silliness, I'm sure. But we want to thank everyone, City Rosen, Alan Gear, and everyone else at TAPA for extending the invitation. We're very excited to get the opportunity to do it. And for those of you who have not registered, please do hit up TAPA Americas and let them know. It is the premier cargo security and loss management for supply chain conference in the country, I would argue the world. And we're excited to be a part of that. So Just wanted to mention that again. My halftime, it is October 31st, which to me has a dual meaning. One, today would have been my mom's 77th birthday. She left us quite a while ago, but I asked, what did Halloween mean to you when you were younger in your life? Halloween to me, first of all, it was the veneration of my mother. It was her birthday, which meant everything else was off until we made sure that Sonia was happy. So there was that part of it. But for me, I remember it wasn't even like a real school day. Everybody came dressed up in their costumes, and it was kind of hard to keep control of people's learning because we were so fired up. But getting home, waiting for it to get dark, hanging out with my friends, and going on trick-or-treating But then as we got older, it getting part of the chaos of just being little snots and toilet papering people's. I mean, I was that guy, Doug. So we were little hoodlums. I hate to admit that. And then getting older, just the parties that we would have in our 20s, where I really enjoyed going to costume parties and the amount of fun that we had. But for Halloween, for me now, I don't even really think about it anymore, Doug. It doesn't register. My daughter is a teenager. She's in her last year of high school. She loves Halloween. For her, it's still fun, but I don't know, Doug, at some point in my life, Halloween just became another day in my calendar. It's not like the other holidays, but this apparently is next to the Super Bowl. More beer and alcohol will be consumed tonight than any other night in the calendar. So apparently someone out there is still having fun, Doug. It's just not me.
Yeah. So my thread of Halloween is very similar to yours, right? So when I think of Halloween, I think of two things. One, being in high school, partying pretty hard, and zipping through the neighborhoods with toilet paper and creating destruction, whether you fork somebody's yard or grab for sale signs or slight property destruction. I can't believe that I did some of that stuff. And then I was kind of an asshole a little bit with related to this night when I was a teenager. And then fast forward in college, all the things that you just spoke about, parties and getting dressed up. So I feel the same way. But I will do a public service announcement for any of our listeners that have kids in elementary school. So again, my wife's a first grade teacher. And here's two things that you do not bring to a kid's Halloween party at school: glitter and popcorn, because it just gets destroyed and the cleanup is off the boot. So when you're like, what are these kids going to do? Oh, let's bring some popcorn and we can have some glitter. Do not bring popcorn or glitter to your elementary school's Halloween party, and your teachers will be will be very grateful. So,
do you have a favorite Halloween costume that you wore one year, like one that you remember that you really loved?
The one I'm thinking of, yes, it was a Jimmy Buffett, parrot shirt, and I was a swimmer growing up, so I had goggles, and I stuck 3 beer cans off to the side and one in the back, and as I drank beer, I would pull one off and put the other one on, and oftentimes that beer wasn't completely empty. So I was just covered with beer at a fraternity party, probably getting a little bit out of hand. But yeah, that's the one for some reason, always comes back to me. My beer goggles, dressed up as Jimmy Buffett.
Goggles. Okay, yeah. My personal favorite, I went as Belushi. Is that me or you?
That's me. I just killed it.
I went as Belushi's. Remember how he used to do like Samurai Delicatessen and Samurai Octopus? Yeah. So I had the full get up. I did the full Belushi. And I had the fake samurai sword and the whole bit. And Doug, nobody got it.
Huh?
Nobody got it. And then I found anytime you have to explain your Halloween costume over and over again, that's a great indication that you missed the mark. So nobody really got it. Maybe one or two of my friends, but maybe they're just being nice. They're like, okay, Pete, oh, that's really great. Yeah, great costume, moron. Right. So, yeah, it wasn't a really good one. One year, my friends and I in Baltimore, we all went as the Super Friends.
Yeah.
You remember the 1970s cartoon Super Friends?
Oh, yeah.
I was Batman, and that was an absolutely fantastic costume. It was one of my favorites. And I met a girl at a party who was dressed as Catwoman, and I will say that worked out well for young Mr. Pete. So yeah, that was great. But yeah, most of my Halloween costumes are kind of DIY, like you're talking about, beer goggles.
Yeah, that's the best kind. So cool. Well, Pete, my halftime. I'm going to keep this one short because it is not focused around Halloween, but it is focused around travel. You're doing a insane amount of it, and I'm doing it more in my career now than I ever have. But it's related to the airport and the concept of how do you properly load an airplane. And this popped up because on the 26th of October, United came up with a new loading plan where it was window, middle, aisle, which makes total sense. Before it was back to front, which people think is the best. So back to front, window, middle, aisle, and I was doing some legwork, Pete. And there's actually a guy, I forget his first name, but its last name is Steffen, Steffen, and it's called the Steffen method of how to load a plane. Like, I don't even know how this came to be or why this guy is studying this, but the ideal scenario to load based on his analysis is back to front, alternating rows and alternating sides. So people don't stop in the middle of the aisle and wait while somebody puts their bags up. There's a little space in between, so that process is a little bit faster. And then you go left to right and alternate. So that's just something that I brought up as I've been loading and unloading planes, or I've been getting on and off planes, and just how challenging. You just shake your head about how people operate. But the one thing, Pete, that struck me is that they said the second fastest way to load a plane is a free for all, just like Southwest does. You get in line and you just pick your seat and you go. That is actually faster, from what I read, than doing a scheduled, organized back to front. So we'll see. I'm sure everybody on the plane is like, God, if I was in charge, we'd load it this way or that way. But the Steffen method, check it out. I saw a video where it has these great little people and widgets that are kind of moving through to see how the plane will go. But the bottom line, Pete, is that the incentives and the status that will always be present to have people commit to an airline will always create problems, right? That you could have a loading of a plane scripted as well as you want, but if you have status in Premier, it's going to screw it all up. So anyway, that's my take on loading and unloading passengers on planes.
My quick response to that, Doug, is I read apparently it's going to save 3 minutes. That's
the United thing.
Yeah, it's going to save 3 minutes. And if you progress that over time, how much time that saves them over a course of a year, and like, I don't know, will it really? I want someone with a stopwatch to tell us if it really saved them 3 minutes. And then secondly, much like you, I'm a business traveler. I fly United almost exclusively because of where I fly to and from. And I hate people that are not full-time business. I hate them. Like I have, oh, sorry, my lights went out here. I have so much angst and anxiety in my heart for these people, Doug, that get on planes and make it impossible for the rest of us. And it's just one of those things I've had to learn to just accept. People lose 30, 40 IQ points as soon as they enter an airport. And maybe it's because I'm just used to being there, but y'all don't act right once you get on in an airplane or an airport. And you need to, if you can't figure out how to be part of the great machine, take the bus. Stop making it harder on the rest of us. I've had it.
Yep. I'm sure everybody's thinking of stories listening to this show. Like, I remember the time when ... when they were loading and unloading a plane. So Anyway, all right, brother, what you got on? I think you go. Yeah. Go for
it. Second one's kind of freaky. So Apple has found themselves in a really difficult position. Their Apple Watch, which is really surprisingly to me, at least, taken the world by storm. People love these wearables, and it has been determined by the International Trade Commission that a suit brought against them by another technology firm about how their watches gauge the oxygen level content of your blood. The technology that they use based on the light was an infringement on the IP of this company. And the president's office is going to take the next 60 days to review it. But no president has ever vetoed an ITC ban before. And if that's the case, Apple has a choice to either stop putting that technology in their watches, which are already in production and in the software and all the rest of it, or they'll be banned from importing them. This is the biggest company in the world. And they're facing an outright ban on one of their most important products right around the holidays. I think that's incredible. So that's the power of taking one of these arguments to the government, and the fact that this little company that could got something out of it. I guess it says a lot about the fact that you never know, and there could be some support there for it. I believe in Apple. I think that they'll find some way to make it work. They're just too big of a company with too many resources not to find some way to make this work and to save the day.
Yeah. Well, I think you nailed it whenever you said it's the biggest company in the world. They'll either come to some sort of agreement to use the technology and pay the company some money. I think it's Massimo is the name of the company about that. So anyway, scratch a check, have the problem go away, or give them some residual revenue for using the IP. But you've seen those commercials. The latest one is whenever they just clap their fingers, and I mean that's all related to that technology. So that's where it's going. So Apple's not gonna let that go away, in my opinion, and they'll solve it with the stroke of a pen. And
I want a new one, man. Like I can't
What's
wait.
that?
I want one. I want the new Apple Watch. I want the new Apple 15. So we'll see. I hope they can still import them because Big Daddy wants his toys. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So, well, hey, my last topic, and Pete, this one is, we could have an entire show about this one, right? Because we always talk about being forward thinking and what's coming down the road. And this one is related to Africa, right? And I saw an article, and I'm going to give you some statistics on the New York Times. But Africa is on the rise, and it's going to have impact on sourcing, international trade, and supply chain. However, and I'll get to the however in a minute, so I want to throw some statistics out there that I got from the New York Times, that the population, so here they are. Number one, the population of Africa is going to reach 2.5 billion in the next 25 years. And the rest of the income nations or first world countries are actually on the decline, right? So Africa's skyrocketing up. In 1950, only 8% of the world's population was in Africa. And by 2050, it's going to represent 25%. But of that statistic, Pete, the most important one is that 33% of the world's population is going to be in Africa that's the ages of 15 to 24. So they're entering their prime work years, if you will, while the other countries, the U.S. and China, their average is around 38 years old as far as the median age. Africa's 19, U.S. and China's 38. You can kind of put those things together and see where the trajectory is heading. And by 2100, right, I kind of laugh at some of these projections that are 80 years out, but 40% of the world's population is going to be African, and that's what they're saying. So all that is great, Pete, and we've talked about this way back when you and I first started the show a couple years ago. In our industry, you chase labor. Where's the cheapest labor to make the next widget or the next piece of clothing or the next, whatever it may be? But the infrastructure in Africa is so rudimentary. I don't know if the investment is going to be, if the juice is going to be worth the squeeze. Because not only, just talk about the ports, right? We could get into this in the port infrastructure and how do you move something from a manufacturing place that may get set up to the port to get it effectively out. And then just the infrastructure of factories and the organization of people. It just does not exist. The infrastructure is so basic right now that it would be billions and billions of dollars to upgrade to make any level of manufacturing in Africa beneficial. So I don't know, man. It's primed, it's ready, the workforce is there, it's growing, it has all of the it's dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but the infrastructure, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Oh, and then by the way, the political aspect of those countries and the fraud that is wrought through all those countries, I don't know. I don't see anything dramatically happening. Raw materials and things of that nature, sure, I think that's going to continue to grow with the EV explosion. But I don't know. What's your take on Africa based on those demographics, the political situations, and it being the next great bastion of cheap labor to divert manufacturing.
I agree with the demographic side of it, and also to piggyback what you were saying regarding the infrastructure. It's a real problem, but a lot of China's Belt and Road and a lot of what China has been doing to dump money into building ports and building infrastructure, it really was all throughout Africa. Now I wonder with China's current economic problems, if they'll be able to maintain it and keep it going well. And if these African nations will also be able to maintain it and keep it going. These are massive projects. It takes a lot of money to keep them, up to date and working. So they're in a dangerous situation if their benefactor is unable to continue to financially support it. When you talk about why people don't have as much confidence in supporting exports out of Africa, it sounds a lot to me like China in the 70s. We don't really trust the infrastructure. We worry about geopolitical unrest. We have concerns about our ability to be able to control our IP, all those things. And I think that we're in a position now where we've probably learned about global expansion, where it can be better there. But Africa, unlike a lot of these other parts of the world, has not embraced one political ideology over another. If anything, they've really been more in the orbit of China than the United States. So I think it's going to be harder for them to bring that kind of comfort to American manufacturers, that they're making an investment in a part of the world that's politically aligned with the West. I think ultimately that's going to be a real speed bump for Africa's growth.
Yeah. I think the political alignment and the geopolitical nature of many countries versus China being one, and you get the communist nature of it. You just print money and dump it in there to make to make it work. It doesn't. It's not
that prevalent. We've ever done that, Doug. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that could be. Anyway, that topic I just brushed over it, Pete. We could have several shows specifically about Africa, but it struck my attention the other day, and I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, we just might. Maybe we will, Doug. Maybe we'll have a bunch of shows about it.
Yeah.
But for this week, that's going to be our last topic. And as always, we appreciate all of you that listen, watch, share the show, and support us. We want to thank the folks at Cap Logistics who make this possible. I want to thank Keenan back at the ranch putting all this together for us. You all missed it, but Keenan he looked a little unkempt today. He was out of uniform. His hair was a little messy. It was uncomfortable for me. But yeah, we want to thank him as well and thank all of you. And thanks, Doug, for another great show. Happy Halloween, everyone. And we'll see you again next week for another great edition of Global Trade This Week. Take it easy.
Excellent. Thanks, Pete. See you guys.
Thanks, bud.